Hey there, and welcome. Today we're not just going to learn some dry grammar tense. Nope. We're unlocking the single most powerful tool you have for sharing your experiences, your memories, your whole life story. We're talking about the past simple, which is really the language of storytelling. So, how can you use it to tell your story? Let's dive in.
Just think about it for a second to answer this simple question. Whether you went on a hike, saw a movie, or maybe just chilled at home, you need the past simple. It's literally the key to talking about everything that's already happened.
So, to really get a handle on this, we're going to break it down into 5 key functions. I want you to think of these as 5 different tools in your own personal storytelling toolkit, each one with a very specific job.
Okay, first up, the one you'll use the most. This is for any action that started in the past, finished in the past, and, this is important, we know when it happened. It's like putting a pin on a single point in your personal timeline.
Take this example right here. The action, going to Germany. The specific time, last summer. See, the event started and finished, all in the past. It's a perfect little snapshot.
But what if something wasn't just a one-time deal? Well, the past simple also covers habits or things that happened over and over again in the past. It's kind of like saying, I used to do this.
Exactly. They didn't just eat local food once, right? They did it repeatedly all throughout their holiday. The past simple handles that repeated action just perfectly. Now, this next tool is for situations or states that were true for a while, not just a quick action. We're talking about things like jobs, where you lived, or even feelings you had for a long time.
This is a great one. Living in a small town. That wasn't a quick action, was it? It was a state of being that lasted for that whole period of growing up. It's a way to describe a whole chapter of your life.
And these words, think of these as your cheat codes. Whenever you see or use phrases like yesterday, last week, or a specific year like in 2007, that is your signal to grab that past simple tool.
Okay, next up. This is where the past simple really becomes the engine of your story. It lets you list events one after another, in the order that they happened. This is how you build a real narrative.
See how clean and simple that is? 1, 2, 3. First this happened, then this, and then that. The past simple lets you guide your listener through the story, step by step. It's so clear.
All right, our final tool is a little more dramatic. This is when you use the past simple for a short, sudden action that cuts into a longer, ongoing action in the past. It's how you create a moment of surprise or a sudden change.
Perfect example. The long background action is she was studying. And what cuts right into that? Bam! A storm started. That short, interrupting action is in the past simple.
And these words you see here, this is the glue that holds your stories together. Words like then and after that help you build that sequence, while words like when and as are just perfect for setting up those dramatic interruptions.
All right, so you've got the toolkit, and you know what each tool does. Now let's get our hands dirty and see how to actually build with them. And here's the best part. The basic blueprint is incredibly simple.
For regular verbs in a positive sentence, it honestly could not be easier. You just take the verb and you stick ed on the end. That's it. And notice this, the verb walked is the same for every single person, from I all the way to they. Super easy.
Now for negative sentences, we bring in a little helper, the word didn't. And here's the one key thing you have to remember. After didn't, the main verb goes right back to its original form. So you never say didn't walked, it's always didn't walk.
Want to ask a simple yes or no question? You just put the word did at the very beginning of the sentence. And again, notice the main verb stays in its original form. Did she walk? Not did she walked. That little word did does all the past tense heavy lifting for you. And what if you want more than just a simple yes or no? Easy. Just add a question word like who, where, or when right at the front, before did. This is how you ask for all those specific, juicy details that make a story really interesting.
Of course, in English there are always a few rebels in the group. We call them irregular verbs. But don't worry, they're not actually difficult. They just kind of play by their own rules. And mastering them is a huge step towards sounding really fluent.
So, all an irregular verb is one that just ignores that easy ed rule. Instead of saying good, we say went.
And here's a cool piece of trivia. A lot of these verbs are actually the oldest words in the English language, from way back before the ED rule was even a thing. They're like little linguistic survivors.
But here's a great tip. Even these rule breakers like to form little gangs. They often fall into these neat patterns. Just look at this. Spoke and broke. Or drank and sang. Grew and knew. When you learn them in these groups, memorizing them becomes so much easier.
So there we have it. We've gone through the 5 main uses, the simple rules for building sentences, and even how to handle those tricky rule breakers. You now have the complete toolkit for talking about anything in the past. But just remember, this isn't really about rules, is it? This is the language you use to share who you are.
You know, we started by asking what you did last weekend. But now you can talk about your last big vacation, your childhood, or that hilarious thing that happened just yesterday. You've got the grammar. The only question left is, what story are you going to tell first?